Good morning. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. Please note any website or email that I mention will be posted in the chat box. For those seeking business licensing assistance, you can visit the Small Business Center at City Hall on the 8th floor or call 312-74-GO-BIZ. Also, business licenses can be applied for or renewed online at chicago.gov/Chicago Business Direct. If you are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/business education. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. I will post the mentioned information in the chat box. We encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box to send your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please note that the views, information, and opinions expressed during this webinar are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection or the City of Chicago. Today's webinar will be the 4 key steps to create a flight plan for your business, presented by the National Association of Women's Business Owners Chicago chapter. Representing NAWBO today is Jacqueline Ruiz. Jacqueline is a visionary social entrepreneur that has created an enterprise of inspiration. With more than 20 years of experience in the marketing and public relations industry, she has created 2 successful award-winning companies, established 2 nonprofit organizations, published 32 books, the largest collection of Latina stories in a book anthology series in the world, and held events in 4 continents. She has received over 30 awards for her contributions and business acumen. She represents 1.6% of women entrepreneurs with over 7 figures in the United States. Being a 2-time cancer survivor activated her sense of urgency to serve others and live life to the fullest. Jacqueline is one of the few Latina sports airplane pilots in the United States. Jacqueline?
Thank you. Thank you so much. What an honor to be here today with all of you. Whatever you're joining us from, I just want to thank you for taking the time on this beautiful Friday morning before a major holiday to learn and take something away for your business. My hope today is that by the end of this webinar, you'll walk away with 4 new tools and 4 new perspectives on helping you land on the dreams of your business. So with that, I want to tell you a little bit about NAWBO. NAWBO is an organization, to me, is the premier organization for women-owned businesses. I've had the honor of being part of the organization for many years, and the level of business acumen, the level of tools and resources that are shared on an ongoing basis, and how NAWBO really elevates the community is the many reasons why I'm a member and I am an honored representative here in this webinar today. I am, like I said, honored to be here. And I will tell you, I'll begin with a story that is one of the craziest stories that you'll probably hear in a little while. It was around April, and I would say April 18th to be exact. And I decided to do something crazy. As one of the few sports airplane pilots in the United States, I decided that I was going to pack an airplane, get a co-pilot and a passenger, and deliver 400 teddy bears with this private airplane. I said, you know, I'm turning 40. I want to do something significant. I want to deliver 400 of my Pilotina teddy bears. So picked 4 significant locations, states like Kansas, Ohio, Indiana, and back to Illinois. And I decided to pick some schools around in the area and basically create a flight plan. Now, I had no idea that this would become the biggest flight of my life. To be exact, 1,347 nautical miles on this incredible journey, 7 stops, 4 schools, 4 nonprofit organizations, and most importantly, 400 teddy bears, hand-delivered to 400 amazing kids around the United States. You know, when I think of the flight and when I think of being a sports pilot, I think of fun, I think of a hobby, and I also think of impact. So much of being a pilot has to do with the life of an entrepreneur, taking risks, making decisions that propel you to greater heights, assessing situations, going through turbulence. All of that is part of the journey of an entrepreneur. So today, I want to share with you the 4 key elements that I use when I'm creating a flight plan, like the one that I just did for April. Now, you might not decide to celebrate your birthday in such a crazy way, but you know what? What you do every day is a little crazy. And what you do to navigate the regulations and the law and all the clients, the projects that you're working on, the ways to increase the things that you're doing every single day is also very brave. And I want to commend you for that, because it takes someone brave to do what you do every day, to run a business and to be part of an enterprise, to be part of something greater, something that is making an impact around the world, around your community. Doesn't really matter how big the impact is, as long as you impact one individual, you are definitely making a pathway, to creating that journey of legacy and transcendence. That's what we all want as humans, right? We want to create an impact. So when I'm thinking, wow, 1,347 nautical miles, how do I begin? How do you begin the journey of 1,000 miles? You begin that with a simple step. The first thing and the first tool that I want to give you today is the tool of self-management, which is the first component of a flight plan, the pilot. The pilot is the first component of any flight. If there's no pilot, there's no flight. What does the pilot need? What does the pilot do and not do to assess and mitigate risks? What does the pilot do in making decisions that get you closer to the desired outcomes? How does the pilot create that plan? How does the pilot assess himself, herself, to be able to say, you know what, this is what I need. In this moment, this is how I'm advancing my journey. In this journey, this is how I'm gonna make this happen. And in the world of aviation, we look at anything that could affect the pilot. Imagine, is the pilot feeling ready for this mission? Is the pilot feeling exhausted, clouded? The worst thing that can happen to a pilot is foggy vision, right? We need to have the clarity of where we're going, where we are, and how we feel, right? So much of that has to do with self-management. How are you, as the pilot in command of your business, how are you managing your emotions, your feelings, your triggers? We all have things that make us upset in the business space. We all have things that challenges us. We have things that, really to put us in a completely different mindset. How are you taking that time that you need to say, I'm going to get to know myself a little more today. I'm going to self-analyze and self-manage. Every time that I land the airplane, I'm thinking, did I do an okay job? Did I make myself proud? Even if I fly by myself with my brave teddy bear and no one is watching, I'm always landing thinking, how could I have done that differently? Could I have, increased the angle of attack? Could I have come in a little bit sooner to the landing? And every day every day that you take off, every day that you land is an opportunity to self-manage and self-reflect. And the longer and the sooner that you get to know you as an entrepreneur, that you get to know your pilots in command, your team, the sooner that you'll be able to scale the business. I was recently a coach, a marketing consultant to 77 multi-million-dollar series group of entrepreneurs out of Stanford University. And, you know, it doesn't matter how big a company is. It all goes back to the pilot in command, or the pilots in command, the team that is directing that company, the decisions that are being made every single day. So when you think about your business, I want you to think as yourself as the pilot in command. And I want you to think of the things that you can improve. And I want you to always think of, how can I advance? How can I get to know myself a little more? How can I get to know my team a little more? How can I identify triggers? How can I identify the emotions that are keeping us away from where we want to be? That is step number one in creating a sound flight plan for your business. The second step, how do I manage my aircraft? Aircraft is the second component, because you know what? As long as you might want to fly, if you don't have an airplane, you can't fly. So imagine all of these amazing things that happen in the aircraft. There are, you know, you might be overwhelmed, right? Because you look at the systems, you're like, the electrical systems, the gauges, the everything, right? From the mechanical, electrical, and anywhere in between, navigation. And it might be overwhelming. I mean, even if you look at the picture of the cockpit of our plane, you're like, wow, imagine that cockpit being the key performance indicators of your business. Imagine that your business needs 5 to 7 things to thrive. Now, how do you identify those things? Is it sales? Is it engagement? Is it conversion? Is it the attrition rate? What is it that allows your business to thrive in any environment? Those things are your key performance indicators. And from those things become your dashboard of your airplane. What does the airplane need? Know that there are many ways, many kinds of airplanes. Some airplanes are wired to fly basically at a certain speed, slower, at a lower altitude. But some airplanes are designed, they're born to fly high and fast. You need to identify, what is your aircraft? Your aircraft is your business. And what does that business need in order to thrive for the parameters that it was made for? What are the limitations that your business might have? And what are the potential extensions of your business? That's how you define the KPIs. It all goes back to the KPIs. Every aircraft is designed with its own unique identifiers. I cannot fly a sports airplane in the same speed that I fly a jet. I cannot fly a commercial airplane at the same altitude that you fly a military engine, a military airplane, right? So what does your business need? From there, you create a checklist. That's how you basically compare against the key performance indicators, the pulse of your dashboard items. That's how you say, well, you know what? Every month, every week, we keep the pulse on our dashboard. And these are the most important things. These are the things that really matter to us. And then we take a bird's eye view and we say, this is how these KPIs have transformed our business in the last 12 months. And you know what? A lot of people say, well, I'll wait till the end of the quarter. I'll wait till the end of the year, the end of the semester, the end of this. Anytime it's an opportunity to zoom out of your business. I always say, just like Michael Gerber in his business, in his book that transformed the way businesses are run, he basically said, you know what? There are two ways to run your business, and they both have to be present. One is you work in your business, and then you work on your business. Much like a pilot, you work to zoom in so you can see the cockpit, you can see all the different things, and then you zoom out. Just like you elevate on the airplane, you zoom out and say, how can I see where I'm going? What is the progress that I've made in this journey, right? And that is what a pilot does. You zoom in and you zoom out. And there's no better time than today to do that. Even if you take 5 minutes to zoom out and say, am I going in the right direction? And I'll give you this example. If you were in Chicago and you said, you know what, I'm going to New York. And that is your set destination to go to New York. And you plot the route, your magnetic heading in the plane. But for whatever reason, you changed 2 degrees to the right. Guess what? Those 2 degrees at the beginning of your journey in Chicago, all the way to the route to New York, will actually make that route end up in Washington, D.C. Imagine that. Everything is precise in the world of aviation, just like in the world of business. A lot of people say, well, I don't know what the key KPIs are. I don't know what the key performance indicators. I don't know what is going to make my business thrive. I'm struggling. I don't know how to scale my company. And I will tell you that if you don't know, gather with other fellow entrepreneurs. Gather some feedback, gather some data. It's totally valid. Or find out about what businesses in your industry, in the size that you want to be, are doing. How are they thriving? Do some research, do some investigation, maybe conduct some interviews. What is working for you in this industry? Because like I said, every aircraft is created differently. And I will tell you that for every business that you're in, there will always be many thousands of existing businesses that have already proven the formula, that have already proven successful. What is that checklist? What are the things that they're doing? You can always learn from the giants that we're riding on the shoulders of, right? So think about your business as a beautiful aircraft that you have to take, you have to nurture, you have to, maintain. But most importantly, think about your business as the aircraft that is wired for very specific performance. And if you're ready to move your aircraft to a new altitude, if you want to go from 1 million to 5 to 10 to 20 to 50, what do you need to do today in order for you to see things from a completely different perspective? Is it time to retrofit where you are? Because this aircraft is not going to take you there. If you've been running the aircraft of a $1 million business or $250,000 or $50,000 side hustle, how are you going to transform? And how does that cockpit look like? How does that dashboard look like? Maybe those key performance indicators will be completely different. And that's totally acceptable because now you're entering new heights. Now you're entering a new stage of your business, right? That's important for you to know. So now you wonder, well, okay, I'm a good pilot in command. I've gotten to know myself. I've gotten to know my team. I know exactly, who we are. I know what triggers us. I know that I have the right people on the bus, right? This position needs this key performance indicator, and they're all sitting. The pilots in command are sitting exactly where they need to be. I also know that my business, in order to thrive, I've done industry research and I've done, all kinds of research and interviews. And I know that these are the 5 things that I need for my cockpit, for my key performance indicators, for my dashboard, for this business to thrive and to grow and to scale. So now you're thinking, okay, what else is next? Number 3. Number 3 is the weather. You might be thinking, what is the weather? Well, the weather, much like in the world of aviation, the weather in the world of business is the industry the regulations, the law. In this case, we just went through the pandemic. I mean, things that you cannot control, but you do have to learn to navigate. Things that you cannot control, but you have to learn to navigate in. That is the weather. That is your weather. And that sometimes might be presented as a turbulence, might be presented as an opportunity, as an opening in the sky. It might be presented as fog that does not allow you to see the beauty that's on the other side. Another example of this is that if I were ready, as a sports pilot, I say, well, I'm ready to take off today. I'm a good pilot in command. I got the airplane ready, and I get to the airport, and I know that the sky is unlimited. I know that the sky is completely clear and beautiful, and I have, that vision. However, when I get to the airport, I notice that right on the top of the runway, there's this thick layer of fog that does not allow me to take off, does not allow me to see beyond that layer of fog, even though when I look up, I can see that there's all kinds of possibilities on the other side. Sometimes it is so easy to zoom in so much in your business that you lose a perspective of what's around you. What is that ecosystem? What is that ecosystem provoking right now? What is that law? What is that industry standard? What are the new regulations? What are the new things that are taking place in the industry, innovations? What is that allowing you to do, right? And sometimes it is perfectly fine to say, no go. No go today. I'm going to hold off on the storm. I'm going to wait it out because I know that tomorrow will be a better day. I know in a few hours, it'll open up and I can now have the clarity that I need to take off and land safely. And I think that's the beauty of knowing how to navigate the weather. That basically tells you that you're alert, you're aware, you're awake, and you're ready to conquer that. And saying no is perfectly acceptable. You have no idea how many times I have been stranded at different local airports because there was a perfect storm. It brewed up and it basically, created the perfect storm within minutes. And I knew that the weather in this part of the hemisphere moves from the west to the east. So imagine that. How are those regulations moving? Are they moving up and down? Are they increasing? Are they decreasing? Are they going from west to the east? Right? So once I know that you have that data of what is happening in your ecosystem, then you can say, go or no go. I'm going to hold off. I'm going to say no, even if the rest of the world thinks I'm crazy right now. One of the most fascinating phenomena in the world of aviation, just like in the world of business, is that when you are flying, let's say you're flying straight to your destination, and if the wind is coming from your left and you fly straight, you'll end up over there, just like the example that I gave you. You'll end up in Washington, D.C. instead of New York with a 2-degree differentiation. So what we do as pilots is we turn against the wind. So imagine you can be flying in a perfectly aligned route, perfectly straight line, but if the wind is coming from this direction, you turn the plane towards the wind and you fly sideways in a perfectly straight line. Imagine that. So people on the ground might be like, wow, well, that person is crazy. I mean, look at what he's doing with his business. Look at, she's flying sideways. Where is she going? She's going against everybody else, against all the competition. She doesn't know what in the world she's doing, right? He's doing, right? And then you're like, I know exactly where I'm going. The rest of the population, even my team sometimes might be confused, but I have that gut feeling. I analyze the ecosystem. I analyze the industry. I know exactly what's going on. And I have this gut feeling because that's something that entrepreneurs have. And I'm going to continue to go straight, flying sideways, even if people think I'm wild and I'm crazy. Have trust in yourself. Know that your decisions are getting you closer and closer to the landing of your dreams. The phrase that I'm known for in aviation is taking off is optional, landing on your dreams is mandatory. So imagine that if you decided to go off on this project for your business in this grant procurement process, do it. Think about the destination. Do not let anything keep you away from that. And if you need to take a break, if you need to change directions, if you need to turn the plane sideways, if you need to do whatever you need to do to get to your destination, just have that faith and the confidence that you will land on success. That is one of the key ingredients of a business person. Somebody that learns to navigate and flow, but at the same time, somebody that learns to make sound decisions, because that opening in the sky might be the only opening you have. Now, the other thing that I see in this point is that a lot of entrepreneurs only see above themselves, only see right above. They don't see beyond the clouds. In real life, imagine this. The sky is divided from the ground, basically divided in different layers. The highest layer where space begins is 90,000 feet. Imagine that. Imagine how vast and how fascinating that actually is. 90,000 feet above us is where space begins. And guess what? General aviation flies between 18,800 and below. The military airplanes up until about 28,000 feet, to do the practice maneuvers and everything. And then commercial airplanes fly between 30 to 40,000. And the fastest airplanes of all, the private jets, they fly 40 to 51,000 feet. Imagine that. Between 51,000 feet and 90,000, there are another 49,000 feet of space that is unused in this world, in this hemisphere. Just like the ecosystem in your business. Why settle? Why only use up to 10,000 feet, up to 20,000 feet when you have 90,000 feet to play with? When the sky is unlimited, just like the landscape in your business. Whether you create a new product, a new service, a new variation of product or services, a lot of times innovation is not reinventing the wheel. Innovation is mixing things that already exist and putting it into a different ecosystem, right? How are you reinventing yourself within this ecosystem? How are you creating a pathway of success in a landscape that is so vast and so amazing? There's a lot of competition. Oh my God, the industry is not going to allow us to do that. Well, guess what? There's so much more space that you can play with. So many companies have completely taken a different route and said, you know what? This is what you talk about. We're limited. This is the competition. It's fierce. It's the blue ocean versus the red ocean strategy, if you've heard of that, where, the red ocean is where everybody competes for market share and everybody's fighting. And then there's like a blood, bath of, opportunities, and they're taking their business away from each other. And the blue ocean strategy is where you say, you know what? The ocean is much bigger than that area. How can I create a different ecosystem? How can I innovate so that I am seen in a different perspective? And that's what it takes. That's what it takes for business owners, entrepreneurs, visionaries to say, how can I today, June 30th, right? June 30th, I have to look at the calendar because sometimes, I love what I do so much that it's hard for me to, sometimes like, what day is it? But imagine that today could be an amazing opportunity to zoom out. So far, we've seen a variety of things. We've seen pilots. You are the pilot in command, the PIC. Second, the aircraft. What is your aircraft? How big, how fast, how high do you want the aircraft to fly? And what does that aircraft need? 3, weather. What is it that you need to do in order to navigate what is going on around you in your ecosystem? So now you have this wider perspective, right? So you probably wonder, okay, what's left? We've covered a lot of ground, right? The fourth element is external circumstances. Now, the world of aviation has created this bucket because there could be a myriad of other things that could affect your flight. And once you decide to take off, the risk of making sound decisions while you're flying, or the risk of mitigating the risks when you're flying, they basically intensify by 10. And that's why this fourth key element or fourth lens ingredient that you want to look at is external circumstances. Is there anything else that is keeping me as a pilot in command with my passengers, my team? Is there anything else that is keeping me away from my destination? Are there toxic people, toxic environments? Anything else, a difficult situation at work, family issues? What is it that is keeping me away from ultimately landing on my dreams? And that is the area where you say, okay, what else is keeping me from doing this? What have I been doing that I thought it was going in the right direction that has not worked? What have I been doing that hasn't worked in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years? And somehow, like a miracle, I expect something different. The external circumstances, this lens allows you to see any other gaps, any other missing items, any other maybe connections that you need, knowledge, information, data, any people that you might need to get rid of. Because to be sound, remember, you need to mitigate the risks on the ground. Brian Tracy one time said, planning, for every minute that you plan, you save 10 minutes in the execution of the plan. And I will tell you that as an entrepreneur, every Sunday, I take a moment to review my week. What I do is even though I have it on my calendar, I write down every single one of the meetings that I have, Monday through Friday. And what I write down is, I take another lens. I zoom out and I say, what do I need to make this meeting, this online webinar, this online connection, this meeting in person, this meeting over Zoom, this phone call, what do I need to make this transaction that I'm going to have this day an encounter? How can I make that an encounter? What are the 5 things or 3 things that I need for this to become an encounter? If I'm going to meet with a client, I visualize what the client might be going through. I visualize what their pain points might be. I visualize the last conversation that I had with them. I visualize, what was on their mind last time? Even if it's something completely relevant to publishing a book or doing marketing. I said, oh, remember, did you go to that golf game? Did you go to that? Even asking questions that are relevant to that so that you basically create an encounter from that experience that you had within the last time, right? So I do that, I visualize it. And then from there, I extract an action items list. And you bet you that I have my vehicle, my car, I'm always filled with, I have it filled with a bag with little gifts. Sometimes I take copies of my books. Sometimes I take copies of my productivity journal. Sometimes I take little gifts that I find at the store. I'm like, oh, they mentioned something about golf. So I buy them a golf ball or something, right? Because you want to provoke encounters. Dale Carnegie said, by the way, these are all amazing authors that have shaped the way that my life, I've read this book since I was a little girl. That's why I was mesmerized with books. And that's why I published 32 of them. And, I'm thinking, he said, everything you'll ever do in life will be with people, for people, and through people. Imagine that. So if that is the answer, then the business of an entrepreneur, of a business owner, of a business executive is relationships. So if you take a minute to plan and you say 10 minutes in the execution of the plan, and you zoom out on Sundays and you visualize those encounters and you provoke those encounters, then that means that you're solidifying those relationships with those potential clients, which means that they will probably trust you to give you business, which means that you will then be the resource for a lot of their contacts, and then you'll continue to fill that pipeline. And that next innovation that you have is then going to be fueled by this amazing network that you built because you provoke those encounters. So everything is connected, and I'm convinced that everything is about relationships. So yes, the aircraft is amazing, but if you don't have those relationships, what do you do? So think about all the external circumstances and go back to square one. Am I becoming the best pilot in command that I can? Am I navigating the aircraft in the best way possible? Is there anything that I should change? Is there any variation, any checklist differentiation? And by the way, on the checklists are super important because they did a study on how a hospital system started using checklists, borrowed from the idea of aviation, because in aviation, it doesn't matter how long you've been flying. I've flown with some of the most amazing experienced pilots that have been flying since they were 17 years old, and now they're 65, 70 years old. And I will tell you that the checklist never goes out of fashion. If that is what you need day in and day out to run your business in the most effective and efficient way, stick to that. Every team member, everyone that is part of your mission has to follow that checklist, because those are the way that you're going to get to the goal, right? So we have that. Then we have external circumstance, weather, right? We say, okay, what do I need? How do I sharpen my saw? How do I sharpen my skills so that I know how to navigate quicker, faster, better reflexes as a business owner? That's what it takes, right? That's what it takes. And then fourth, anything else that is keeping you away from that. So when you think about who you are, when you think about where you're going, when you think about how you're going to get there, think about this reference as a pilot in command. Think about the reference as this three-dimensional space. Those things that got you today, that got you here today, to the size of your business, to where you are now, they're not going to help you get to the next level of your business. And much like I had to shift my mind from driving a vehicle to operating an aircraft in a three-dimensional space, is what we need to do today. We need to think of your business navigating in a three-dimensional space where the rules might be completely different than the rules that you've been operating in. And this is what's going to give you the edge. This is what's going to give you that innovation, that new perspective, that window in the clouds, that window of opportunity to say, I never thought about it before. Why didn't I think about that before? Now I know. Now I know where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to go for 2023 and beyond. We've been through the pandemic. We've been through some, crazy changes, but we're still standing. And that tells me that you're resilient. That tells me that you're confident. That tells me that you are here for the long run. That tells me that you're in it to win it. And in order to do that, in order to land, you need to think of your flight plan day in and day out. And with that, I want you to know that I'm here to answer any questions. I'm so honored. There's nothing that I would rather be doing on a Friday morning than being with you today, because I am passionate about business. I've been an entrepreneur for more than a third of my life, and I would never change it for the world. Entrepreneurship for me has allowed me to live not only a life of significance, but also a life of impact. And, I became a millionaire at the age of 37. And people that, look like me from where I came from shouldn't be in the place that I am. But you know what? We are paving the way as Latinos, as African Americans, as Asians. We are paving the way as minorities. We're paving the way to business. We're paving the way to scaling. We're paving the way to new opportunities. And, I had to make it to $1 million to be accepted at the program at Stanford. And it was right in the middle of pandemic. And I remember the professor said, you have an amazing story, Jackie, and I wish I can let you in shy of the $1 million into this program, but I can't. But when you make it to $1 million, let me know, because this program is it's not about storytelling, it's about economic impact. And funny enough that when I graduated from the program, there were 77 multi-million entrepreneurs that had already paved the way. I realized that it was much about storytelling as it was about economic impact. And when you combine those two things and we share the stories and we communicate our value and we create a pathway and we can, create a narrative, we can change the world. And you can have it all. You can have that beauty of both, and that's part of that beauty. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you so that we can open it up for questions.
Great. Thank you so much for that. If you have any questions, if you could please put them in the chat. And we'll give everyone a few minutes to do that.
Did you guys like it? Maybe I can. Did you enjoy this? I don't know if you've heard of this parallel to aviation, to the business world. Did you guys enjoy that kind of parallel, that perspective? Had you heard about it before?
Thank you very much. Amazing. I loved it. Excellent advice. Thank you. Lots of positive feedback coming in. I think they liked it. Just waiting for any questions.
Well, this is coming in. I will tell you that something really interesting happened. I've been an entrepreneur for my whole, more than a third of my life. And when I started, in aviation in 2015, I was like, okay, I know how to do marketing. I know how to fly planes. And of course, I also in tandem had started this journey of authorship in 2010. My goal was to write one book. And of course, now the rest is history. But that single idea of creating one book called Latinas in Aviation, inviting fellow Latina pilots, has now yielded to having a museum exhibit with artifacts donated by the authors that I invited to my book. And all the industry organizations saying, oh my gosh, we've in the world of aviation over 100 years, we've never heard of this. So just an example of how one single idea that you guys have today that you can walk away with potentially could change an industry, and you could be the one that changes that. So my KPIs, okay, KPIs, a lot of them have to do with the growth. So number one, I look at how many clients do I have? Every month we check in how many clients do we have. And I have two businesses. So I have a marketing agency and I have a publishing company. So of course, clients, authors, right? Clients and authors. So that's one. The second thing that I track is the attrition rate. How many authors or clients did we lose this month? That's another one. Another one that is important for me is how many upsells or cross sales did I have this month, right? Because that engagement of existing clients, it takes 7 times more to get a new client than to keep an existing client. Imagine that. So we track how many cross sells and how many upsells is we have this month, because that tells me that, hey, the attrition rate didn't go down, number one. Number two, that tells me that they're engaged. Then, I might track other things like, for example, with a lot of our clients, we track email analytics. We track open rates, engagement rates, social media, likes, views, engagement, comments, exposure. We track, media placements. That's important for our clients. How many media placements we get, how many non-conventional media placements do we get, how many presentations did we get this month or, this quarter. All of those things, so you could have the key ones. And you say, you know what? I want to keep my clients. I don't want to lose my clients, and I want to upsell my clients. Probably the top 3. And then the rest of them could be more about exposure, because keep in mind that you have in a business, you have the ROI, the return on investment, right? That has to do directly with the impact of dollars. But then you also have the ROO, which is the return on objectives. And some of those are in the second phase of the peripheral. One has to do with money, the first three, and then the other 3 to 4 have to do with objectives and following and this. That yes, it might lead indirectly to the first KPIs, but that's, if you can define primary KPIs, secondary KPIs, if you want to say, you know what, all I want to track is how many new clients I got this month. Perfect. That's a beautiful way to start, because that is gonna, keep you then like, oh, you know what? I also want to track how many new followers we got on social media this month, how many new people we got signed up for our newsletter this month. Then you can start tracking those things, because there are also metrics that can help you feed the funnel in your business. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Lisa. This was amazing perspective. Thank you. What I heard today will help me. I love that. And you know what? Just think about this 3-dimensional space, right? It's like, no longer am I bound to the earth. I have so many more opportunities to do that, right? Not only the red ocean strategy, but now think about the blue ocean strategy. Ana Lopez says, thank you so much for your energy that you're giving us today. There's so much to learn from you. I look forward to your books and to learn more from you. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ana. That means a lot to me. I love that. My mission, by the way, is elevate women. No pun intended, right? But I do that with the books, this type of encounters I love. I do this with, advice to young ladies through my nonprofits. And of course, taking over 100 passengers on the private airplane that I fly. And, it's just exciting. How did I get to my first million? Oh, Sunita, that was very exciting. You know what? I'm a cancer survivor. And I will tell you that for me, it was never, and it's never been about the money. It's always been about impact. Because when I was 23 years old, my life almost got taken away by this rare condition that I was born with. And the doctor walked in. I had a 5-month-old baby. I remember this vividly. And I was, 5 months into my business, and 5-month-old baby, I started the business when my baby was born, to give him a better future. And I wanted to have a dream, a business in the land of dreams. And finally, this was happening. Doctor walks in at Northwestern downtown, right? And says, you might die in the next 2 weeks, or you might be fed out of a tube for the rest of your life. Or you might be okay. And I said, well, I choose door number 3, please. And I said, doctor, I just have one question. And he says, yeah. I said, can I leave by next Thursday around 8:30, 8:45? Because I have finals at College of DuPage and I'm graduating with honors. And he looked back and he smiled and he said, he thought I was going to ask him about if I was going to live. He says, your positive attitude saved you. So fast forward, for many years, I had every opportunity, Sunita, to make it to $1 million. I had, to this date, thank God, I have, amazing connections, amazing referrals, great reputation. I pour part of my heart into every project that I do. I take our clients' missions as my own, and all those ingredients have allowed me to keep clients and keep doing that. But I was never focused on the money. It was until the Stanford University experience, somebody nominated me, and I was at $853,000 single-handedly. I never had any grants. I never had any loans. I never had any investors, nothing. I started from a laptop that my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, gave me. Okay. So to me, that was like, oh my gosh, I got to $853,000. And not only that, I've had always an amazing profit margin. So for me, it was like, okay, $1 million sounds amazing because that's 6 figures to 7. That's great. But it never moved me to the point I'm like, I just want to help people. I really do, And that's when the professor said, I did an essay. I'm like, please let me into the program. I will be the most devoted student. I love learning. I'm a nerd. I mean, I've learned Japanese. I've learned, German. I've learned aviation. I've learned Italian. Like, I'm really dedicated. I love this. I'm a nerd of learning. And he says, oh, that is so wonderful. You have an amazing story, Jackie. This program is not about amazing stories. This program is about economic impact. And that, to me, part of me was really mad. I was like, what do you mean? I've invested my life to storytelling. I have a publishing company. That's what I do. And then it started dawning on me. I'm like, how can I transform that energy? Because you know what? I cannot live in the energy of like, he turned me down, because that energy doesn't serve us. We need to have joy and gratitude as entrepreneurs. Genuinely, if we don't have those ingredients, it's not going to work. Even if you fake it, it's not going to work. So I'm like, okay, first, I need to fill myself with joy and gratitude. Second, I need to think clearly. I need to be the best pilot in command. I need to see what it is. So I told my team, this is in the middle of the pandemic. I said, this is May 2020. I said, I have through December to make it to 1 million. I mean, last year, we were 853,000. It seems like it's, not a lot of money, but we're in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, who knows? So I said, well, not only are we going to keep the 850 that we made last year, but we need to kind of get over the hump. So I had team members and I told them, we are not going to let any client go, any little project, anything. We're going to go above and beyond. We're going to be more innovative than we've ever been before. We're going to track it every week, sometimes every month, keeping track of those numbers. I became a numbers hawk. I said, what are the numbers telling me? What are they doing? What are they saying? What are they saying to me, right? And I just study the numbers, and I, fell in love with the numbers. And I, never been a numbers person until now. I was in love with them. And when I got to November, I said, I made it. I made it to 1 million, Of course, send a message to the professor. I said, Professor, I just want to let you know that I just made it to $1 million. And guess what? I still have December left. December came and went. I closed another $100,000 in December. Closing, because I'm an overachiever, at $1.1 million. I was the first person to apply to the program, graduated, and out of 77 amazing entrepreneurs, I was the only one invited to, guess what? Share my story. And I was like, what an amazing full circle moment. And I will tell you that I've kind of taken my pedal off the gas, once you create a frame, a mindset of where you are and who you are and the level that you reach, I kid you not, I haven't done anything extraordinary, but whatever I did back in 2020 has allowed us to stay and afford us to stay at 1.1. And this year, we're going to probably get to $1.2 million. So ever since then, you know what? There's something that changes, something that shifts, when you make it to, and then, DePaul University, another program that I graduated from, said, Jackie, do you know that you represent 1.6% of the women entrepreneurs at $1 million in the United States? I literally was crying. I said, there's no way. It gets me emotional. I'm like, there's no way that only 1.6% of women are 7 figures. I mean, I never did it because I was happy. I was content. I was complete to be alive. That to me was the greatest gift, and it still is. So I was never driven by that. But then I said, when I do that, I can grow, I can empower more women. And that is the fire that just took over me. And that's the fire that continues to drive me. And it's okay to be a millionaire, to have that and to reach those goals and to still make a life of significance and to have an impact. So thank you so much, Sonita. That's my long answer, and I hope that inspired you. I'm no one special. I just, something triggered inside of me. And I did like the little engine that could, and it happened. And I'm so grateful. And, I continue to keep that pulse, never let it go. And, always, where are we going? How can we innovate? How can we be better than we were yesterday? And that's, that's the feeling that permeates in our company. How can we make an impact to our clients today? And it's always impact before money. And that feels really good.
Great, thank you so much. We'll give everyone one more minute for questions. We're getting very inspiring. Thank yous.
I sometimes get emotional because it's
No, that's great. It shows a passion. Well, I'm going to say that no one else has any questions. I want to thank Jacqueline. Thank you so much for all that great advice and your inspiring story. We're getting thank you. We love your energy. The energy is definitely what has been the comments on. So that's great. So I want to thank everyone for attending. Jacqueline, thank you again. We really appreciate it and hope everyone has a safe and good weekend. Thank you.